The silent surrender. The first sign of the collapse came not with explosions or battle cries, but with silence. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Defiant Dawn, watching the holographic display as entire star systems simply went dark. One by one, the communication beacons that had connected civilizations across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy fell silent. "Ma'am, we're receiving the final transmission from the Zeridian Empire," reported Communications Officer Hayes, her voice tight with disbelief. They're surrendering. No battle, no invasion fleet detected. They just gave up." Sarah's weathered hands gripped the command rail. 20 years of military service had taught her to read between the lines of panic, but this was unlike anything in her experience. The Zeridians controlled 47 star systems and possessed one of the most advanced fleets in known space. They didn't surrender to shadows. "Show me the transmission," she ordered. The main screen flickered to life, revealing Emperor Veldris, the proud leader who had once negotiated trade agreements with Earth's colonial administration. Now his scaled features were hollow, his 6 eyes vacant and unfocused. When he spoke, his voice carried no emotion, no life. "To all who receive this message," he said in perfect galactic standard, "resistance is meaningless. Hope is an illusion. We surrender our fleets, our worlds, our people. The silence has shown us truth. There is no point in fighting what cannot be fought." The transmission cut to static. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. In the silence that followed, she could hear the nervous breathing of her 30-person crew. The Defiant Dawn was an exploration vessel, built for discovery and scientific research, not warfare. They carried sensors capable of analyzing distant nebulae and laboratories that could break down the molecular structure of alien artifacts, but their defensive capabilities were minimal. "Captain," called Dr. Marcus Webb from his station at the xenopsychology console. His dark skin had paled, and sweat beaded on his forehead. "I've been analyzing the linguistic patterns in the surrender messages from the past 6 hours. Every single one uses identical emotional indicators, the same tonal patterns. It's as if they're all reading from the same script, but not consciously." "Meaning?" "Something is influencing their minds directly. This isn't political surrender or military defeat. This is psychological domination on a scale I've never seen." Chief Engineer Zara Okafor looked up from her console, her usually calm demeanor cracked with worry. "Captain, whatever's causing this is moving fast. The pattern suggests it started at the galactic rim and is working inward. At this rate, it'll reach human space within 72 hours. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, centering herself the way her old drill instructor had taught her. When she opened them, her gaze was steady and determined. "All right, people. We're going to find out what we're dealing with. Set course for the Kepler station. Maximum speed. If anyone has survivors or information, they'll be heading there." The Defiant Dawn was a sleek vessel, built for long-range exploration rather than speed, but Zara had been tweaking the engines for months. They made the journey to Kepler station in 18 hours instead of the usual 24. What they found there broke Sarah's heart. Hundreds of ships crowded the space around the massive trading station, most of them damaged and clearly fleeing in panic. The station itself, normally a beacon of commerce and diplomacy, was running on emergency power. But as they approached, Sarah realized something was wrong with the refugee fleet. "Captain," Hayes called out, her voice breaking. "The ships. They're all going silent, one by one, just like the planets." Sarah watched in horror as ship after ship in the refugee fleet simply stopped broadcasting. Their running lights dimmed, their engines powered down, and their crews presumably surrendered to whatever force was hunting them. It was like watching a plague spread through the fleet, except this plague attacked the mind rather than the body. "Get us to that Vorlak heavy cruiser," Sarah ordered, pointing to one of the few ships still showing signs of active resistance. "If anyone's going to fight this thing, it'll be them." The Vorlaks were known throughout the galaxy as proud warriors, descendants of a harsh world where strength and honor meant survival. Their ships were built like fortresses, and their crews trained from childhood to face death without fear. If they were succumbing to this mental attack, then no alien race was safe. The Defiant Dawn docked with the Vorlak cruiser Blood Thunder, just as its distress signals began to fade. Sarah led a boarding party through the airlock, expecting to find a ship full of defeated warriors. Instead, she found something far more disturbing. The Vorlak crew sat at their stations, staring blankly at their controls. Their breathing was steady, their bodies unharmed, but their eyes were empty. It was as if someone had simply turned off their souls. All except one. In the bridge's command center, a single Vorlak warrior stood defiantly at his post. Commander Thex was massive even by Vorlak standards, his armored carapace scarred from dozens of battles. But now he swayed on his feet, his forearms trembling as he fought against something invisible. "Human," he rumbled when he saw Sarah approach. His voice was strained, as if speaking required enormous effort. You must flee. The Silence Bringers. They come for all thinking minds. None can resist. None accept." His words trailed off as his eyes widened in surprise. "You are not affected. How is this possible?" Dr. Webb stepped forward, scanner in hand. "Commander Thex, can you describe what you're experiencing? What does this mental attack feel like?" Thex's breathing was labored, but he managed to speak. "Like drowning in despair, they show us visions of futility, of meaninglessness. They whisper that all struggle is pointless, that surrender brings peace. My crew believe them. I fight, but I grow weak." "But we don't feel anything," Sarah said, looking around at her boarding party. The humans showed signs of stress and fear, but their minds remained their own. "Why aren't we affected?" "Perhaps," Dr. Webb said thoughtfully, "because we're the youngest species in the galaxy. Our minds develop differently. The Silence Bringers might not know how to influence human psychology." Commander Thex suddenly straightened, his warrior's instincts overriding his despair as alarms began to sound throughout both ships. "They come," he whispered. "The Silence Bringers have found us." Sarah felt her pulse quicken as she looked out the viewport. The space around Kepler Station was changing. Stars were vanishing, not behind ships or debris, but simply ceasing to exist visually. It was as if reality itself was being erased, replaced by a void that hurt to look at directly. "All crew back to the Defiant Dawn," Sarah ordered. "Commander Thex, you're coming with us." "I cannot abandon my crew," the Vorlak warrior protested. "Your crew has already been taken," Dr. Webb said gently. "But you can help us save others. We need to understand what we're fighting." As they raced back to their ship, Sarah's mind was already working on possibilities. If humans were naturally immune to this mental attack, then they might be the only hope the galaxy had. But the Defiant Dawn was one small exploration vessel against an enemy that had conquered hundreds of worlds without firing a shot. Back on the bridge, Zura was frantically working at her console. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures approaching. Whatever these Silence Bringers are, they're not using conventional technology. The readings are off the charts." "Can we run?" Sarah asked. "We can try, but they're moving faster than anything I've ever seen. At current speed, they'll overtake us in minutes." Sarah looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. These were explorers and scientists, not soldiers, but she saw determination in their eyes. They understood what was at stake. If the Silence Bringers could break the human mind, then the galaxy was truly lost. "Then we make our stand here," she said quietly. "Hayes, send a message to Earth. Tell them what we've learned about human immunity. Tell them the galaxy needs us to fight." "Message sent, Captain," Hayes replied. "But it'll take months to reach Earth. Then we'd better buy them some time." Sarah turned to Commander Thex, who was struggling to remain standing as the mental pressure increased. "Commander, what can you tell us about their ships, their weapons?" "They do not need weapons as we understand them," Thex managed. "They project despair itself. But perhaps Perhaps human minds can shield others. In the old stories of my people, we speak of mind links during battle. If your thoughts are strong. Dr. Webb's eyes lit up with understanding. Psychological shielding. If we can project our mental resistance, we might be able to protect alien minds from the attack. The viewport began to darken as the enemy approached. Sarah could feel something pressing against her thoughts, like whispers at the edge of hearing. But where alien minds crumbled under the assault, human determination seemed to grow stronger in response. All hands to battle stations, Sarah announced over the ship's comm system. This is Captain Chen. Today we make the first stand in galactic history. Today, humanity shows the universe that some things are worth fighting for, no matter the odds. The Defiant Dawn powered up its limited weapons systems and prepared to face an enemy that had conquered civilizations with thoughts alone. In the dark space around Kepler Station, a small human ship became the last light of hope in a galaxy falling to silence. The battle for the soul of the galaxy was about to begin. The Defiant Dawn. The enemy materialized out of nothingness like a fever dream given form. The Silence Bringer ships defied conventional understanding of physics and design. They seemed to be carved from crystallized shadow, their surfaces absorbing light rather than reflecting it. As they approached, the very fabric of space around them rippled with wrongness. Captain Sarah Chen gripped her command chair as waves of despair crashed against her mind. But where Commander Thex and the other alien survivors aboard the Defiant Dawn writhed in mental agony, the human crew stood firm. The psychological assault that had conquered entire empires felt like nothing more than a cold wind to human consciousness. Dr. Webb, are you getting readings on their approach? Sarah called out. Marcus Webb worked frantically at his console, sweat beading on his forehead from concentration rather than fear. Captain, I'm detecting massive psionic emissions. The energy patterns are designed to exploit specific neural pathways common to most evolved species, but human brain structure is different. Our neural networks developed along unique evolutionary paths. Chief Engineer Zara Okafor looked up from her modifications to the ship's systems. I've been analyzing the attack patterns from the refugee ships. The Silence Bringers don't seem to understand why we're not surrendering. They're increasing power, but it's having no effect on us. Commander Thex, the sole surviving Vorlak warrior, struggled to speak through gritted teeth. This is impossible. No race has ever resisted. Your minds, they are like fortresses of stone where ours are flowing water. The lead Silence Bringer vessel, a massive construct that seemed to bend space around itself, came to a halt just outside weapons range. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then a voice filled the bridge, not through the communication systems, but directly into the minds of everyone present. Surrender, the voice commanded, carrying the weight of absolute authority. Your resist ance is nem angels. All things end in silence. The alien survivors aboard the ship collapsed to their knees, overwhelmed by the direct mental contact. But the humans remained standing. Sarah felt the command try to take hold in her mind, felt it probe for weakness, and find none. Instead of despair, she felt something entirely unexpected. Anger. No, she said aloud, her voice carrying across the bridge with startling clarity. We will not surrender. We will not be silent. And we're going to show you that this galaxy still has fight left in it. Dr. Webb suddenly straightened at his console, his eyes wide with realization. Captain, I'm reading massive confusion from their psionic emissions. They don't understand our response. More importantly, I think I know how to extend our resistance to others. Explain quickly, Doctor. Human minds generate a specific type of neural static when we're determined or angry. It's chaotic, unpredictable, and apparently completely alien to their psychological weapons. If we can amplify that static and project it through the ship's communication array, we can shield the alien minds around us. Sarah finished. Do it. Zara was already rerouting power from non-essential systems. I can boost the communication array's output by 400%, but it'll drain our weapon systems. Then we'd better make this work, Sarah replied. She activated the ship-wide comm system. All hands, this is the captain. I need everyone to focus on why we're fighting. Think about home, about the people we're protecting, about every reason we refuse to give up. Project that determination with everything you have. The response was immediate. 30 human minds focused their collective will through the ship's communication array, creating a psychic beacon of pure human stubbornness. The effect on the alien survivors was dramatic. Commander Thex slowly stood, his eyes clearing for the first time since the enemy had arrived. Extraordinary, he breathed. The whispers are gone. I can think clearly again. Throughout the ship, alien refugees began to stir. Zeridian traders, Vorlak warriors, Christine scientists, and dozens of other species found their minds suddenly free from the oppressive weight of despair. For the first time in hours, hope flickered back to life. The Silence Bringer fleet responded with fury. Their ships began to move forward, and Sarah realized they were preparing to resort to conventional weapons. Whatever these beings were, they clearly weren't used to meeting resistance. All weapons target the lead ship, Sarah ordered. We might not have much firepower, but let's see how they handle a good old-fashioned human surprise. The Defiant Dawn opened fire with everything it had. Plasma cannons, missile pods, and even the emergency mining charges from the geology lab. The weapons weren't particularly powerful by military standards, but they struck the enemy ship with perfect accuracy. More importantly, they struck with complete surprise. The Silence Bringer vessel reeled under the assault, its crystalline structure cracking as it tried to adapt to physical damage after eons of purely psychological warfare. But what really caught them off guard was the follow-up attack. Commander Thex had rallied the Vorlak survivors, and they stormed the enemy ship in boarding pods launched from the refugee vessels. These weren't the broken, defeated warriors who had surrendered hours earlier. These were Vorlaks fighting with clear minds and human-inspired determination. They carved through the Silence Bringer ship's defenses like a blade through silk. Captain Chen, came Thex's voice over the comm system from aboard the enemy vessel. These beings, they are not what they appear. They are parasites, feeding on despair and hopelessness. Without those emotions to sustain them, they are weak, incredibly weak. The revelation changed everything. Dr. Webb was already analyzing the new data. Captain, if they're psychic parasites, then our resistance isn't just immunity. It's poison to them. Human determination and hope are literally toxic to their species. Sarah smiled grimly. Then let's give them a full dose. She opened communications to all the surviving ships in the area. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the human vessel Defiant Dawn. To all survivors who can hear this, we found their weakness. They feed on despair, but they starve on hope. Rally to us, and we'll show them what it means to fight alongside humans. The response was overwhelming. Ships that had been drifting powerlessly suddenly roared back to life. Their crews, shielded by the human psychic beacon, rediscovered their courage and their anger. What followed wasn't so much a battle as a rout. The Silence Bringers had conquered through fear and hopelessness, but they had no defense against a coalition of species fighting with human-backed determination. Their ships, magnificent and terrifying when facing broken minds, crumbled under the assault of creatures who remembered why they were worth fighting for. As the last Silence Bringer vessel fled into the void, Sarah found herself surrounded by grateful alien allies. The bridge of the Defiant Dawn was crowded with representatives from a dozen species, all eager to thank the humans who had given them back their hope. Captain Chen, said Admiral Kresh of the Zeridian fleet, his scales now bright with renewed vitality. My people have fought wars for thousands of years, but we have never seen courage like this. How do humans find such strength? Sarah looked around at her crew, these explorers and scientists who had become warriors out of necessity, and smiled. Admiral, I think it's because we're still new to this galaxy. We haven't learned yet that some things are impossible, and by the time we figure it out, it's usually too late to stop us. Dr. Webb approached with his final analysis. Captain, I've been studying the psychological profiles of all the species that were affected. The Silence Bringers target civilizations that have become comfortable, perhaps complacent. But humans, we're still fighting for our place in the universe. We still have that hunger, that refusal to accept defeat. Plus, added Zara with a grin, we're too stubborn to know when we're beaten. Commander Thex nodded approvingly. In the old Vorlek traditions, we have a saying, the fire that burns brightest is the one that refuses to die. Today, humans have shown us that fire. As the mixed fleet of human and alien vessels prepared to carry news of the victory to the rest of the galaxy, Sarah reflected on what they had accomplished. The Silence Bringers weren't gone. They would regroup, adapt, and return. But now, the galaxy knew they could be fought. More importantly, they knew that humanity would stand with them in that fight. Lieutenant Torres, the young pilot who had coordinated the fighter squadrons during the battle, approached Sarah with a datapad. Captain, we're receiving communications from across the galaxy. Word of our victory is spreading faster than the original surrender messages. Entire systems that had gone dark are coming back online. And Captain, added Communications Officer Hayes, we're getting a priority message from Earth. They're dispatching the entire colonial defense fleet to support us. Admiral Morrison says to tell you that humanity doesn't abandon its friends. Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest. In the space of a few hours, humanity had gone from being a minor species on the galactic periphery to being the rallying point for an entire galaxy's resistance. It was a responsibility she hadn't asked for, but one she was proud to accept. Set course for the nearest liberated system, she ordered. We have a galaxy to free, and I have a feeling we're just getting started. The Defiant Dawn turned toward the galactic core, no longer alone but leading a growing fleet of species united by hope and human determination. Behind them, the stars began to shine brighter, as if the galaxy itself was awakening from a nightmare. In the depths of space, the Silence Bringers regrouped and planned their return. But they would find a very different galaxy waiting for them. One that had learned that sometimes the youngest voice in the room has the strongest will to fight. The age of human leadership in galactic affairs had begun, not through conquest or diplomacy, but through the simple refusal to surrender when surrender seemed inevitable. And that, perhaps, was the most human thing of all.